Hello and welcome back, my dear friends. On the community tab of this channel, a while ago I encouraged you, the viewers, to send me an email and to share with me how you became involved in magic, manifestation, etc. So in this video, I will describe my own journey on this path and how I got here, basically. And the following two stories are from two lovely viewers. And I want to thank them for trusting me with their story. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Story number 1. The story of Nicole, the creator of Liquor of Wisdom. Magic, like painting or singing, is an art that captivates certain individuals. While some people enjoy playing video games or writing books, others prefer to hit the dance floor. For me, my passion lies in magic. And I like to share with you my story and how I got to become a witch. As a child, I found solace in watching the moon for hours on end. It was my moment of zen, amidst the chaos of my parents' constant fighting almost every evening. Growing up in that environment, that sort of situation quickly made me learn the importance of money. And it manifested in me the desire to escape that toxic household. I knew that in order to live, I needed to earn money. As I grew older and witnessed the constant turmoil in my household, I began to feel tired and worn out. However, there was this one event that always gave me a burst of energy and a strange feeling. It was a strange occurrence that happened years ago. It was my first experience with the paranormal, and it happened when I was just a kid. You see, I started to have these vivid dreams as a kid, and in my dreams I would see a substance that turned everything into liquid. I also dreamed of being trapped in tight spaces and seeing strange shadow figures. And I always ended up waking up when I would see those shadow figures in my dreams. But then when I opened my eyes to the real world, I would be surrounded by this buzzing static energy, and I would often scream in terror. This went on for several nights, these scary dreams, until one night I even sleepwalked to my best friend's apartment, which was just above my parents' apartment, so not that far. I remember that I woke up, and when I woke up, I was in the middle of a conversation with my best friend's mom, and I was asking her to take me to my friend, a young boy who was also passionate about magical things. Long story short, after this incident, my parents got me the next day in church. Yeah, that actually happened. And asked the priest to say a prayer over me or something to release me of this so-called evil. I tried to speak to them about my dreams, but they said it's all in my imagination. If these adults would just wake up and realize that yes, it is all in your imagination, because that's the secret weapon of magic and dreams. Dreams are the first gateway to the strange land of magic. Anyway, my mom started to explain to the priest that this is not normal, and on she was. The priest kind of dismissed my mother, and he said that he needed to speak to me in private. He then asked me to recount what had happened. I chose not to mention the shadow figures or the strange energy that I had experienced. Instead, I just told him that I had been having bad dreams for some time now, and that I had sleepwalked to my friend's home out of fear. The priest exuded a warm and calming aura, and he prayed over me. He assured me that I would be fine and advised me to listen to my inner voice and ignore everything else, and to just focus on school and to focus only on having happy thoughts. Then after this thing, my mom drove me home and we had this conversation in which she informed me that neither she nor my father could figure out how I managed to get out of the house. You see, the door was closed and the key of our apartment was in the closet of the apartment where it was always kept at night. The windows weren't open, so I had no way of leaving. I still can't explain how I failed to solve this mystery in all these years, and I always wonder how on earth did I get out of the house. And maybe I was teleported, but that seems impossible, right? The only thing that I remember is that prior to that night where I sleepwalked to my friend's apartment, I stared at the moon for a long time, and it was a full moon. And it felt like a strange energy was pulling me. And even now, whenever I watch the moon, it has this strange effect on me. I don't know, I just feel attracted to the moon. Anyway, after that bizarre incident, things started to calm down for me. I still had vivid dreams, but nothing as terrifying as that night. That event, I think, triggered something that was looking for answers as I grew up. And because I was thinking constantly of that event, I wanted answers. I developed a passion for reading. I love to immerse myself in fantasy books, especially those involving magic. They were my escape when things got rough at home. Years later, when I was almost 20, I felt a strong urge to leave that toxic environment. But how? When I had no money at that time. You see, at that time, I was reading a forum about paranormal things and I came across the story of a guy who had no direction in his life and he decided to use a Ouija board as a last resort. He didn't think it was necessarily evil. He asked the Ouija board for help and the Ouija board spelled out the name Napoleon Hill. He later found out that Napoleon Hill was the author of the book called Think and Grow Rich. That Ouija board not only helped that young man, but also helped me. I immediately searched for this book on the internet, and because I couldn't afford to buy it in print, I found the PDF version online. I remember that I renamed the PDF and gave it the name of one of my school projects. And I read it over and over again. I was fascinated by what I discovered within its pages. It was full of wisdom. The book became my holy Bible, so to speak. I started to practice the confidence formula and soon enough I got a job and the money that allowed me to move out of my parents' house. That book taught me to use my surroundings and the success of others as inspiration and motivation to create my own. That book became my guide and my mentor, and I read it over and over again. It helped me achieve almost everything I wanted: promotions, good friends, and more. But then I got too comfortable and neglected the book for a while until something miraculous happened. I was at work. I was so exhausted in that day for working overtime, and my team as well was fed up with the long hours in the office and they wanted to take a break and breathe some fresh air. They invited me to join them, but I was so drained that I couldn't even get up from my chair and walk down the stairs. I told them that I would just take a nap at my desk, so I stayed alone in the office. I was so tired to sleep, so I randomly typed something on Google that just came out of nowhere. I typed dark magic books or something like that. And to my surprise, I found a website called darkbooks.org. On the front page, there was a greeting. Hello, I am Witch Christina. Welcome to my free magic library. The problem was that this lady's picture looked familiar, as if I had seen her before. So I read the description thinking that she called herself a witch, maybe because she was some kind of illusionist or something. I was so wrong. I started browsing through the magic collection, and I was so engrossed in reading that I didn't notice how time flew by. And my colleagues came back, finished their work, and even left home. I was in a trance. For months, all I did was go to work, get back home, and read. I was shocked to discover that people were actually practicing magic, real magic. It felt as if I had been living under a rock my entire life. I read so many books and in quite some time I was thinking, these guys must be crazy. But then I found a book by a strange author named Basile Lacroix. It was called The Secrets of a Lifetime. I read the book. That was the moment I knew I had to start practicing instead of just reading about things. I read the book one more time, and the things these guys said, like, if you are lacking something, the cause must lie with you. These kind of things shook my world. I have never thought of things that way before. I always thought it was everyone else's fault but mine if I lacked something. So this book changed my perspective in how I viewed the world. I felt as if all my life till that moment I blamed the teachers, my parents for everything that I lacked. I mean, they had their fair share on that, to be honest, but it was all in the past. Now I had the real possibility to change my present and my future with a new attitude. I was determined to start practicing this so-called magic. If this guy was speaking the truth, then I would find out by practicing. So I set out to manifest things using what the book had taught me. It seemed like the most normal book on magic that I ever encountered because it was all about visualization. I manifested a promotion quickly, as well as vacations. I even succeeded to manifest a crystal order sooner than the deadline, all by using the power of my imagination and by visualizing things. I was so happy with my success and with the path that I was on that you couldn't believe it. But soon I was disappointed with this author because after doing more research on him, I found out that the guy was a madman. After reading his other books and finding out that he used other pen names and engaged in all kinds of so-called activities, I was beyond disappointed. I had been using my human imagination, but in reality, I was clueless about what I was actually doing. I had no clear understanding of what I was doing. Because I was so disappointed after my research on this author with his character and his ethic, so to speak. I even stopped reading magic books for a while because I thought that most authors were probably the same as this guy. I thought that I will continue with my life and I would be just fine without practicing this mumbo jumbo. But magic would not let me go so easily. One day, I was walking back home and noticed the street was empty. This was strange because it was usually busy at that time of day. I felt goosebumps all over my body, and as I walked, I started to hear this interior voice which was telling me to practice magic and to find it. I was confused. To find what exactly? I thought I must be hearing things, but I knew somehow that this was my intuition speaking to me. Anyway, I looked up at the sky and I wondered why this street is so empty. And immediately I saw a weird black mass. I blinked so fast that my lashes probably were a blur. And I saw that this black mass disappeared. And when this happened, suddenly people started emerging from cars, houses. The street was busy again. After this incident, I walked home as fast as I could. But in order to keep myself calm, I usually think of my pets. And at that particular time, I had a parrot. And as I was thinking about my pet, once again, my intuition spoke to me and said, "She is dying today. She is too old." This whole thing of hearing my intuition 2 times in a day was getting me way too nervous. When I got home, my parrot had indeed died. I was shocked by what had happened and wondered if I was dreaming. This event led me to meditation, and through the answers that I received during meditation, I found myself drawn to ceremonial magic. However, after practicing for a while, I realized that I didn't like the practice and I didn't like the energy I was connecting with. It was a necessary experience for me, however, to learn how to connect better with my inner self. During my meditations, I remembered that I had this t-shirt as a young kid, and on that t-shirt there was an image of Native American women with feathers in their hair, and this memory triggered a series of events that made me realize that I was more interested in shamanic practices than anything else, tarot and other things, and ceremonial magic was a path that was not for me to walk on. After more meditation and seeking guidance from my spiritual guides, I attracted several friends that led me to the teachings of Franz Bardon, Paul Foster Case, Neville Goddard, and others. I made sure, though, to research these individuals before following their teachings because I didn't want to be misled again. I was happy to find out that they were the real deal. Their books and teachings offered me the possibility to practice real magic safely and with a happy smile on my face. So that's how I got into magic. Story number 2, which is the story of a viewer of this channel. Magic for me is tapping into unseen and unknown to conventional understanding, the mysteries of nature, connection and balance within the fields of the ether. My explorations into what I consider magic began when I was very young, primarily via my curiosity and imaginations. The world was full of wonder, and that included werewolves, vampires, witches, gods, goddesses, ghosts, etc. These were maybe not real as conventionally portrayed, but held possibilities in some form. They had their roots derived from somewhere. I intuitively knew that for myths and legends like these to prevail, there must be something of substance from the past that created them. The darkness held mysteries, and I wondered why. Dreams happened when sleeping, and sleeping happened in the darkness of the night. There was something in that darkness that was unknown to the five senses. I was told was all we humans possessed. I still vividly remember somewhere aged 3 or 4 years old of dreaming humans lived and walked with a world of jungles and dinosaurs. That this felt very, very real and common knowledge to humankind. Certainly not fantasy. To be later told by the elders that indeed this was just a dream of fantasy. For many years thereafter, I believed in what my dream was telling me. Reading stories about these mysteries really brought them to life, expanded my imagination about them. Movies about them were sensationalized and mostly not really believable. Seemed like these movies were designed to be unbelievable, when the reality to me was there's something very real behind them that was deliberately not being told. The adults around me dismissed mysticism and the occult as irrational. They expected me to grow out of my fascination, but I dreamed of becoming like Professor Van Helsing, who devoted his life to studying vampires. That I would have achieved a great life if I dedicated myself to this type of occulted study and unlocked the secrets of vampirism. Rationalism denied the intuitive, and to block out this other world of darkness that I intuitively knew existed in some form. Professor Van Helsing was a scientist as I understood him. If I wanted to explore science in the conventional world, then I would need to come to understand that these supernatural-like entities did not exist. They were figments of my imagination. The science deals in material-based facts about what is real. That reality can only be replicated in laboratories or measured, observed, and understood in the field via hypothesis, adopting the scientific method. The older I got, the more entrenched the materialism paradigm of those 60s and 70s became. Science at school was mostly boring, full of gadgets, measurements, repetitive memorization of what came out the teacher's mouth or put on the blackboard. Mostly dull with interesting aspects avoided. Mostly I wanted to get out of the place rather than watch and follow the same footprints of obedient pupils. Moving further in time to my teenage years, drug, alcohol, music, punk and new wave in its many forms, and rebellion against the establishment crept into my life. I thought I could manage a wild lifestyle and as well to work and study. I tried to be responsible and party hard at the same time. By becoming cool, I masked my sensitive nature and progressively began to lose myself almost fully within that false image. However, during this time and because of the drugs that opened my third eye on a regular basis, enabling a deep understanding of a different realm of human sensation that seemed to me well connected with the energy source of all nature. Magic now became a preliminary understanding of connections with nature. The elements of air, earth, fire, and water grew within my imagination. I absolutely loved how trees could communicate with me, especially via the wind, connect me with senses that were always there but I did not understand, had not developed. Surfing connected me with the water element and its ability to be calm, furious, geometrically connected with air and earth elements. Numerous wood-based barbecues and campfires connected me with the fire element. I ended up studying biology after my mother had forced me to work in some business-oriented role that I did not like. I left that after 1 year to study agricultural science, the only nature-based university course available at that time. Biology was a major component which connected me with the natural sciences. The discipline of university was too much for my alternative lifestyle of those times. So I left and worked in and then managed a plant nursery where major transformation occurred, coming to understand ecosystems, collecting seeds and cuttings from within the local environment and propagating them within glass houses to grow indigenous plants that would be planted back out into the environmental design projects. I love this work and for my age had a good position within the horticultural industry. The nursery was totally transformed and I felt good about my role that was strongly placed within the earth realm. But I was to learn later that the earth realm was not a valued aspect of the conventional material-based society I was living. I wanted to explore even more, and I started to travel to Europe and other places as well. These experiences and all this traveling helped me to stay connected with my spirit and to connect as well with my ancestral roots. The work opportunities for someone like me who had worked in business, dropped out of university, then grown plants in nurseries, then traveled, were not great in those days. I had not followed a conventional path and therefore ended up in what was to me a dead-end, meaningless, business-oriented role. I loved my previous horticultural work, but came to understand that this was very highly undervalued within society. Working in what I perceived as a dead-end business job that I didn't like, I eventually chose to leave. To take the plunge and return back to university where I thought I would be better able to have a professional career doing what I liked. This was at age 27, after I had studied horticulture, astronomy, electrical engineering after work. There was now a university-level horticultural science course available, so I decided to commence it, which was a 3-year full-time undergraduate degree. This required becoming disciplined with homework, which is something I was never that inclined, but I eventually managed the discipline. I completed the course whilst also working part-time in 2 science-based university jobs. Near the end of my university studies, I had a relationship with the love of my life. For a range of reasons, this ended very badly. I felt extremely let down, used, rejected, abandoned. The split occurred right after my university studies were complete and just before I started an environmental science management role. I became a self-destructive and indulgent in a decadent lifestyle that was so inconsistent with my inner self. Moving fast forward in time, I started to go to a psychologist, and in one of our appointments, she stopped me in the middle of my communications when I was really expressing myself freely. She simply said, "Stop, breathe. Where are you?" As I connected with my breath, I also connected with something deep within myself, within my stomach region. This connection unfolded into what became a series of convulsions which lasted for maybe 45 minutes. It was very, very strange, and I had not experienced anything like this before. I went home after this cathartic experience and noticed that there was a gnawing sensation developing within my stomach region. I had experienced this sensation in my stomach region. This sensation felt as if many horses each had a rope pulling in different directions to tighten and tighten the knot. This knot just kept getting pulled tighter and tighter until it felt what I described at that time as singularity. As I surrendered to this, I felt ecstasy. Beauty was the experience. Words cannot describe well what was happening other than to say it was loving, warm, and beautiful. I woke up the next morning like I was charged with energy like never ever before. It was absolutely amazing. Ecstasy and electrifying are words I could use to describe it. Beautiful to be a man living in this world. Very, very high, potent energy. My memory recalls this peaking of energy lasting 3 days. These were 3 days of energy progressively increasing to a fever pitch level, and I did not know when or how it could possibly stop. I knew I was radiating as all-powerful. Nothing could influence this energy as this was connection with the omnipresent and omniscient. And it was within me, blowing my mind. Who I was prior to those 3 days previous was shattered forever. Magic is one of the best words for it. Without any shadow of a doubt, this was the ultimate experience of the universal energy field. My first and certainly the most potentially powerful experience of doubtless awareness. I don't remember how the peaking stopped, but at the same stage it stopped expanding. My memory says this was after 3 days. I was left in this field of energy that initially seemed infinite everywhere. My whole internal being was now charged with a new, highly potent intuitive energy I knew little to nothing about. How to live with it and how to apply it was a complete mystery. I just knew I now had something very, very special and extremely powerful. All powerful is how it felt to me. But besides this experience, I still lived in the conventional world and needed to continue to earn a living. Overall, this corporate environment where I was earning my money from was not good for my well-being. The life-changing transformations of my Kundalini rising were becoming something of the past, but I still had this highly intuitive energy sending me messages all the time. I could only keep quiet about these messages and detach from what I disliked while working within the corporate world. Navigating in this corporate world and normal world is still a challenge. However, now I have doubtless awareness, meaning I do not doubt the messages received within me that generally manifest via feeling sensations in my spine. Story number 3. It all started with a dream for me. Well, in this dream, I was trapped in a room. The room appeared to have a source of light coming from somewhere, but it was weird that it had no windows. So I started thinking while I was in this dream, how on earth rays of light are present in this room when there is no window or hole in the room. Then it hit me. I must be dreaming. So I would become aware in the dream, but then minutes after I would lose again consciousness. Then again I would look at the rays of light and become lucid again. I felt that this entire thing lasted for hours, but probably it lasted just a few minutes. Then I wanted to get out of there, and the flower came into mind. And as soon as I concentrated on that flower thought, the scenery of my dream changed. I was now in a sunny, beautiful garden with flowers left and right. I was feeling dizzy and constantly I was rubbing my eyes because everything looked a little bit liquid, was not stable as the real world. I wanted to wake up, but I didn't know what to do and I started sobbing. Soon 2 guys appeared and they were shining. I mean, they looked like normal people, but they shined somehow from within. And one of them said to me, "You are not stuck. You can think of your physical body and wish it to wake up." The other one said with sarcasm in his voice, "Or you can just scream and you'll wake up." I started laughing and I laughed so hard that I just woke up from that dream. When I woke up, I felt as if I woke up on another planet altogether. I felt weird to be back. I went on about my life for a couple of months, but I must say that each night when I got to bed, I was scared and I hugged my hubby so tight because I was so scared to sleep. I didn't even knew back then what lucid dreaming was. I just thought that that particular experience was probably a heart attack that I had in my sleep or something like that. Don't make fun of me. I just did not knew about lucid dreams, okay? One day on my way home, I saw this magic shop. I think this shop was always there since forever, but I never thought of the idea to get inside. I always saw all kind of weird individuals getting in there, but today I felt like going in there to see what was all about. I entered and a cute old lady welcomed me. The smell inside was amazing. It smelled like flowers, perfumed herbs, hot tea, and delicious pastry. I didn't knew what I was looking for and I just went to the book section. I looked at various books and at one moment the old lady asked if she can help. I wasn't sure if it's okay to speak to her about my dream, but I thought that all kinds of people came in this shop all the time and it must be okay for me to share my strange story with her. I took a deep breath and told her my experience. She smiled knowingly and said, "My dear, that was not a heart attack. You just experienced a lucid dream. And probably those 2 guys from your dream were your spiritual guides." She gave me a book about meditation and a book about lucid dreaming. She told me to start meditating by focusing on my breath and to write down in a journal what experience I would get out of those meditations. In the following years, I started this simple routine almost weekly on the weekends when I would start meditating by focusing on my breathing. And indeed, my guides appeared again and they taught me different techniques on how to manifest my desires, or they helped me with helpful advice. But in one meditation, I got so deep into it that I felt I didn't have a body at all. And these spiritual guides showed me actually myself sitting inside a lotus flower. And they told me that this is the level of meditation that I have to attain in order to have complete mastery over my life and myself. And that can be attained with constant conscious practice of awareness and conscious usage of imagination, my secret power. After this experience where I felt so much love energy going through me, you see, manifesting became easier for me. I also had these flashes of inspiration, and if I would act on them, I would get only rewards. I didn't get rich in terms of becoming a billionaire, but after discovering this path, my life became richer. My life became happier, and I just feel fulfilled. And that's how I got into magic. So these are our stories of how we got into magic. If you want to share your story, please write a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.